Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back to week 74 of the new Build Your Stash and Craft. Today we are going to play with a jelly plate. Now I have linked the original video on how to make a jelly plate in both the supply list for week 74 and at the end of week 73, or the week 73's video. And I'll put the link also below here. So you'll be able to find the link on how to make your own jelly plate if you haven't been able to do that yet. So the first thing that we're going to do though is in order to play with our jelly plate, we need a brayer. And brayers are not super cheap. So we are going to use the paint roller that we already have from when we made our own stamping tool. And so the way to do that is I just use a paper towel roll. And the first thing I do is just cut it in half so it's easier to deal with because it's too big to fit on to our roller. And originally, way back when, I stuffed the roller with paper towel and everything else, bags, but now I just cut it and then make it fit. And it's much easier than stuffing the roller. So now what we're going to do, I want to have some nice straight lines. So what I'm going to do is, I know that this line should be straight, although it doesn't necessarily look like it's there. I guess it does. All right, so I'm going to cut a straight line along the edge, and then I'm just going to cut that straight line right here. So I'm not trying to do it super close to the edge. Easier for me that way. You can cut it wherever you want, but I'm going to line up my ruler with the line on my cutting mat, and just going to cut that like that. There. Okay. And now what we need to do is we need to see how long do we need that to be. So this roller has a little bit of a lip on the edge here to kind of stop it when you push on the roller. So we're going to take that lip and we're going to push it right up against the edge of our cardboard. And then we're going to take a pencil and just put a mark right at the end of the roller. And now we will line up because I haven't let this move at all, I know that this line and this line will be parallel so long as I line this up with one of the lines on my mat. And so it looks like that's going to be right at 2 1/8. And I'm going to cut it right there. Whoa, that's not good. Okay, I think we're all right. So there we go. And because of that lip on the roller, we need to put 2 thicknesses of the cardboard on our roller to make our brayer. So I'm going to just line this up with the 5-inch mark, or the 5-inch line. Go back down here. Actually, 2 1/8, and it's really not 2 1/8. It's actually 1/8 less than 2. 1 7/8, I guess that would be. And I'm going to cut that. There we go. So those two should be the same size, and they are. And then I'm just going to use some masking tape. And we'll have our pencil. Grab our brayer. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to line this up right up against that lip. Just like that. And because I don't want this to overlap, because then you've got this thickness and this thickness of cardboard, we want the whole thing to be the same. I'm just going to make sure that I line it up, make it tight on both ends, and then draw a line right in this top part. And then we're just going to cut that off. Put it back on here. Push it right up against the little lip there. And make sure that that's going to fit. Just like that. And then I'm going to use masking tape to tape that together. And for this first one, I think I'm going to tape it because it's easier. I am going to tape it. I've got a little bit extra here. When I drew the line, it wasn't very straight, but when I cut it, I followed that line because I thought that maybe I needed to, but that made it not fit together. Okay, so there it's fitting together very nicely. And I'm going to put my tape this way. Bring those two pieces together. Like that. And do the same over here. Do it while it's easier to do it on your brayer because you have something to kind of push against on each end, like that. And then I'm going to take a piece and line it up like that. So there we go. So now when you put this on here, there's still a lip on here. So you don't want that lip to constantly, this will be flat on your jelly plate and that lip will be leaving lines, really heavy lines, and maybe even cutting into your jelly plate. So we need to put another layer exactly the same, put it on there, line it up, draw your line, use your masking tape. Make sure that you do this while you have this one on here because it's going to be just a little bit bigger because it has the thickness of this one. And when I do the top one, I only put the masking tape this way because that masking tape might leave a little mark when we paint, when we use the brayer as a paint brayer. So I'm going to take that off because I've already got one done. And I've shown you how to do that now. So we're just going to move on to our jelly plate. Get all this out of my way. And so here's my brayer that's already done. 2 thicknesses of my paper towel roll. And again, just 1 piece of masking tape. And the more you use your brayer, the more paint it will get on it and the more the tape will disappear if the tape is leaving a mark. So here is my jelly plate. Let's set it up. Might be easier to see with the cardboard underneath it, but I'm not sure if it will stay still. Let's see. Maybe I can tape it down. I don't want it moving all over as I'm running the brayer across it. I'm going to see if we can see the whole thing this way. Not really, so I guess we'll do it this way. I'm so used to doing my brayer this way on my jelly plate. Now, the other thing is, one thing that you can do, because this jelly plate is bigger than our paper, and there's no need to necessarily waste extra paint, just so that we know where our paper starts and stops. I'm putting this under the cutting board so it doesn't stick to, you don't want to put the paper under the jelly plate, it will stick to the jelly plate. So there we go. Now I'll know I only have to go this far and it will still cover all of my paper. So it doesn't matter if I do go over there, I can pick that up with another piece of paper, but just to maybe save a little bit of paint. Especially if you're going to be working on cards, 5x7 or something like that. If you put that underneath your cutting mat where you can see where it is, then you'll use much less, there'll be much less area that you'll need to cover. So Now, I just have a bunch of art paints, so I always use craft paint. A lot of times I use my really old craft paint. And to start with, sometimes you may want to, I'm going to use a light color to start with. You're going to want to maybe have some papers that have a background color to them. And you're going to want to have some paper towels or some napkins. And so we're just going to put a little bit of paint on here. You don't need a lot of paint. And I'll put a little bit of red with it too. Kind of a maroon here. And then just use your brayer. Now, the first few times that we use our brayer, it may suck up even more extra paint. And where you drop your paint, you're going to wind up with, you will wind up with like dots where you dropped that paint. And the only way to really do that differently is to have much thinner paint. Now this is really drying up quite a bit. I've soaked a lot of it up on here. And you're going to want to have a piece of paper off to the side. I just am going to pick up that paint on there. See? You touch that plate and it will pick up the paint. So I'm going to just do this right now. And I will use this to brayer it down. And that will, oops, sorry about hitting the camera. That will go ahead and kind of clean this off a bit and give me a little color on the back side. So there is our first pull. Now, you'll learn different things as you go. You'll learn things you like, things you don't like. You know, you can try different things. Now, this is water that can be used. This is just water. So I'm going to just spray my plate, but I'm not going to wipe it off. I'm going to try doing that. And I'm going to try doing the same colors. And see if the water thins it down enough to maybe like make it so that I don't have the big dots of color. And the thing is, I don't really mind the dots of color. I can tell you right now that it definitely is spreading out much better. But we'll find out when we take the pull, because whatever is on the bottom of what you have going on here, that's what's going to show up on your paper. So whatever you're seeing right here on the top, that's not necessarily what your paper is going to look like. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use the brayer to press this down. And there we go. So the spots are much less noticeable. And we now have that piece covered. Now we've got this that's left. So what we can do is go ahead, if we had like a lighter, another colored paper, it's good to have some colored papers first, because then you start putting your design on, and that design comes up on top of your background that you already have, so you don't have a white background. So that just depends on if you want a white background or not. So when you go ahead and you're doing some kind of pattern like this, it's good a lot of times, give it a good massage. Massage your paper down, into that doily. I haven't used this doily before, so we will see if this is going to, it might be too thick. It's an awful thick piece of plastic, so it might be too thick to let the paint come between the holes, but you definitely want to massage that doily to see if you can get the paper kind of down in there to pick up the paint from under the doily. just going to do that, and there we go. We have some of the doily pattern here. It didn't come out as well because that doily is very thick and I couldn't make the paper touch the plate. So, but now what we're going to do, and see how much white we have here, whereas if we had had a colored background and then put this on it, we'd have the decoration on top of the color. Because we've still got the red, I still am not going to be able to use that, use the red papers as the background, but I'm going to take this off. Now, if you take this off and you can put it on a piece of paper, and I'm going to set this off to the side, but I'm going to brayer it real quick. Or you can just rub it with your hands. Okay, that picked up a little bit, but it really didn't give a good pattern. But now we're going to take this and put it on a piece of paper. So I've got an envelope here. Just going to, and sometimes I use the brayer for if I'm just picking up just the regular background color, but I almost always massage the plate, the paper, with my hands when I'm trying to pick up a pattern or something, because then I really just know I've got a good color. I know that it's been pressed in every area, and a lot of times you just get a better print that way. So let's see how this worked. And so there is what was left over, since that did not give us the best print. It left a lot of color on the plate. So if you want to take this color off, you can spray it with your water and wipe it with a paper towel. A lot of times I just like to add to it. That means that that red that's on there is going to show up on my print, on my next print. Oops, and I think that I might spray a little bit of water first so that I don't wind up with a bunch of big dots. And this one will just do it blue. So we'll have a blue background. Now, I also have this red on the brayer. And that's why you brayer off like this before you use it again. I'm just going to, and it's easiest to get it moved going back and forth. And then you just want to try and smooth it out a little bit. We do have lines in here from the roller. So the lighter you push, the less those lines are going to show up. I'll roll off my brayer onto my piece of paper over there, and we'll pick this one up. Picking up a little bit of that at the ends and putting it here on the back, because I like having double-sided paper, and it gives me a choice of which side I want to put a pattern on also. So there we go. Now we can actually see the little bit of bubble dots there. I'm not so sure how well that's showing up, but they definitely are showing up. So now we can decide what we want to do here. Let's put a little bit of texture, and whenever you try to get texture, take the texture and then press it onto a piece of paper, because if you press it there, then you press it again, it doesn't pick up as much paint because it's already got paint on it. So you need to pick up the paint, get rid of the paint. So there's hardly room here to put this here. So pick up the paint, get rid of the paint, and that way, especially if you're using some kind of a stamp, oh, that one wanted to leave a mark there. And let's see about maybe we'll press this on here. I think I'll kind of use the roller to press that down a little bit. And now we'll pick this up and see what it looks like. I'm going to pick it up on white paper because it may be easier to see. But that's what you have the red background paper for, is to pick it up and then you've got red behind your pattern. Or what, you know, whatever solid color you've done shows up behind your pattern then. Okay. So we've got a little bit of the doily here. And we've got our marks from the other here. And so it's all a matter of playing with what you've got and seeing, you know, what things you like best. Ooh, that was a lot of yellow. Let's throw a little bit of green in there too. And having too much paint is not really a good idea because it does not make things work better. So you want a very thin layer of paint. And if you let your paint dry on your jelly plate and then put another wet layer on top, you'll be able to pull up that bottom layer. And I just like to kind of do it until I feel that it's smooth. Again, I'll leave that on there because I'm going to pick that up. Well, let's try putting one of these doilies on here. And I'm going to put this net. I think I want this over here. Just like that. And I really want to rub where that doily's at to see if I can get the color to come between the little holes in the doily. I'll do the same thing over here where the net's at. And I'm going to pick up some of that color on the edge. Because even though the back is messy, it's still color. It makes it easier to deal with later, for me. Oh, that looks nice. See, and that's the thing. You learn the things that work the best. This works great. This works really well too. And if that was on red paper, then you'd just have the design with the red behind it. And so that is how you play with these jelly plates. And again, you can take that netting and put that pattern possibly on something else. We now have a colored doily, which is really beautiful. And now let's go ahead and we'll use the lighter red. I'm going to use the back side of this. So you might be able to see when you have a background color. And so here is where the netting was, and there's where the doily was. It's the opposite of what we had here. So it is just fun to play with the jelly plates and to find lots of different things to play with them. I love to use them to get some colored paper. That's my biggest thing is right now I am running out of colored paper, and so I really need to make some, and the jelly plates are just a really good way to play with that. I thought that I would try also, like we've got our glue book that we did last week, but you know, obviously this looks ugh. I want to put some solid color on there and kind of have a mix of color. And so I thought, see what colors I want to use. I think I want to use this turquoise and this green. And I've never done this before, but I want to see. Put a little water on here too. And the only reason I'm doing that is just because it doesn't matter if you have your own jelly plate or a real jelly plate. Where you flop down just a little bit of paint, especially if it's I got way too much paint. I have way too much paint on here. I haven't done this in such a long time. Yeah, this is way too much paint. But you wind up getting where you blop your paint down there, it leaves a mark. And so I just put some water because I figured that kind of helps. And then the more you brayer it, it helps a little too, but also the more you brayer it, you know, the more it all blends together, so you have less distinction. So I'm going to try and just put this right on here. And we're going to see how this works. Let's do that like that. We can brayer it down. It's okay if I get paint on it. Much better than it was. And I want to do the front too, so I'm going to spray a little water on here and kind of try and pull in some of these edges and see how much we can get on this cover. We got to do that part though. And not as much cover because I already pulled the paint off, but I figured it would be worth a try. But that is definitely better than it was. So I'm going to just set that aside to dry. And I'll probably do some more on the front cover later. So let's see here. I'm going to try and pick up a little bit of this green paint. With a piece of paper. And you don't have to use your hands. You can always use the brayer. You can use gloves to make sure that you don't get the paint all over your hands. It's totally up to you in that instance what you prefer. I really don't. I like getting painty hands and inky hands. Just depending on, hopefully I don't have any place that I need to go. And there we go. So see, that picked up that background. And we've got the doily. It looks like there's actually a doily sitting on the paper. That's really pretty. And that's the thing. You find out what you like and what you don't like by just playing around. So now that we've got just a little bit of green on the background, I'm going to do something to, like, that will go with the green because I don't want to wipe it off. So I'm just going to, and you know how I said I put the paper under there to make sure I would stay right there? Well, obviously I have not. Try and water down that paint a little bit to see if that will help. And no matter what brayer you're using, you will kind of wind up with a little bit of lines where the edges of the brayer are. This one, you really pick up this edge here a little bit. And till it gets kind of covered with paint, you'll pick up this line a bit too. But once it gets pretty covered and dried with paint, this will work great, just like any brayer from the store, as far as I'm concerned, except it does like to slide a little bit, so you got to push it back. To me, that's not a big deal. I think I'm going to use this again. And I think this time I'm going to put it right down the middle of the paper. Whoops, and then I went ahead and I wiped off some of the paint. That's going to make a difference. Use your paper to push it down, not your hands. I kind of wiped it right in this area here. I'm going to make sure that I rub that well. I can go ahead and pick up some of this extra. See what that looks like. So now we've got the green with the yellow, even though we didn't put any green on there because it picked up what was already on our plate. And now I love the looks of that. It looks kind of like snakeskin. And I'm going to pick up what's left there. I'm going to take our brayer sheet and I'm going to pick that up. And there we go. Isn't that cool? So, and I wanted to show you how good the, let's go with this color, our rollers work. Because it's another really fun thing to play with. And so you just need to have just little small bits. Even a little smaller than that. This is just so much. Because this looks really thick. Just put some water on there. And I'm sure that there will be people telling me that you're not supposed to put water on here. And the thing is, it's okay with me. I just do things however I want to do it, and I just try whatever I want to try, because this is just something that I'm supposed to enjoy. So I don't really like to have to follow the rules if I think something else works better, or if I want to try something else. We're creating something. And there have been times where I've made something and kind of did it wrong, and I liked it a whole lot better than the way I thought it was going to turn out if I had done it correctly. So there isn't any right or wrong way to create something. It all just has to do with what you want. I'll roll that off, and then we're going to use our dot stamp, our dot roller. You can also use, and then don't forget, roll it off, because you want to make sure that those are kind of empty and picking up the paint from the other spot also. I'm also going to do, let's do the lines between them. Whoops. One wants to, there we go. Do this one. And I think maybe I'll put it on this, I'm going to put on this red one here. And over here. That's another thing that you're, you can use it to pick up paint on this and use it. But the paint on here dries a whole lot faster than the paint pads that we made. But there, that's what that looks like. Pretty cool, huh? Now let's get this picked up before it dries. And this is actually a really like relaxing, like I'm doing it in a hurry to do it here for the thing. But actually, you know, it's like you just take your time and just relax as you just spread this out. And it's like kind of cool, kind of damp. And it actually is, it's quite relaxing. Like it feels kind of good to just do this. And that's why you'll see a lot of people that do this. They do it over and over and over and over. The paint's already picked up. It's just the fact of it feels good to do it. And that's why you see people do it for a long time. And so there's our dots and there's our lines. And because we've got the more than one color in there, they're not totally standing out a lot. But they look really cool. And this is very plain. And I'm going to try and pick up this end here. And see how that turns out. And there we go. That looks pretty cool too. And so you can use it to just have bits and pieces. Actually, I'll just lay the whole thing down to here and pick up the little lightness here and the darkness, you know, on the edges where there's still a lot of paint. It'll be a little darker. There we go. So even that is fun. So, you know, you can just do so many things with this. And I think these are really awesome. And I got some paint on there, so let's just rub that in. Don't know where it even came from. All right, and then let's take this one. Oh, we've already done that. I don't have the best doilies here. These, because they're not showing up as well as I thought that they would. So that's the thing. You find out as you're doing things that maybe it's really good and it's your favorite. Maybe it's not, and it's not your favorite. And that's the whole point of just going out there and playing with what you've got. I'm trying to think of what color I want to put on here, because I kind of want to pick this up a little bit and maybe do a little bit more. I'm going to use the blue sheet, so I'm going to put yellow on here. I'm going to use this yellow. Okay, and I have to switch my brayer. Whoops, sorry about that. Just switch the brayer out if I can figure out. Oh, here it is. The other thing is that you could have like a couple of these handles. You can also use the full-size handles if you have a few of those sitting in your cupboard somewhere or closet. You can use the full-size handles and a full paper towel roll holder. You know, the full one. And that makes a really nice brayer. It also makes a really good pattern maker like this that will cover the whole thing all at one time. Okay, so we'll get rid of that. And then I want to try and put something there. So let's, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this, use the doily to press it down. And I'm not sure if that's going to give us a print or not, but we're going to try picking that up with this blue that we did earlier. And that's the thing about doing them, is if you don't like one, you can just layer them up. And a lot of times then you will like it. And if you really don't like them, throw them in your color drawer. You know, this would be like yellow or green or whatever. And then you can use it to rip up and use as bits and pieces when you need a piece of green or a piece of yellow. You don't have to love the whole sheet in order to still use it in your projects. You know, cut leaves out of it if it's a pretty green or whatever. So that did really, the yellow looks really pretty on the blue. You can see the yellow doily bit right here, but it's not showing up a whole lot. So that one doesn't work real well. And that's the other thing, is you find out what does and doesn't work. I think that I might try and get some color on this doily. Let me I'm going to try and, oops, I'm just going to try and move this out here a little bit. And then yeah, see, I like that better than the white. But I'll leave it just, no, I don't want to leave it. I really do like that better. So I'm going to just come over here and pick up some more on this one. There, I do like that. And if I don't like the white on the back of this one, well, then just pick up some of the yellow on the back of there. And if you use your stencils that we made, you could put your stencils on there and the picture will come through onto your paper. That's the one thing I don't have here is stencils. This is a bit like a stencil, you know, where it comes through the stencil and leaves the pattern on your paper with whatever color paper it is behind. So that is how you play with your jelly plates. And then if you have the extra on there, you can just pick it up with an extra piece of paper. That helps clean off your jelly plate. And there. And then normally I just spray it and use a paper towel to wipe it off before I put it away. And I wipe it off with the sprayer, then I let it sit and dry a little bit, and then I will put the pan over top of it that's not touching it, but just keeping it from getting all dusty. You can leave this stuff on here, and the next time you come back to use it, as soon as you put another coat of paint on it, that whatever color is on here will come up on the underside of the paint that you put on. And so that's how I clean my jelly plate. And you don't have to, like I said, you can just pick up what's on there with a piece of paper, and you know, that's really pretty much good enough to clean it also. But here's some of the ones that we did. And I think that they turned out pretty good. Just a really fun way to play with these papers. I did a lot of the green and yellow. I guess that must be my in color right this second. But even just the plain ones right from the start that I didn't cover up. They're just, even your roll-off sheets work great for collage. And we can use our rollers to both take paint off and then to put paint on. And there's another roll-off sheet. So that is what we did today. And I think that they turned out good. So I have to say that I really like those too. I like this one with the ends on it. I think that that one is really quite cool. I love the way that this turns out, both ways, this way and the other way, like this. Really like the way that that turns out. I think that that's quite awesome. So, but that is how you play with your jelly plate. And again, that's just a little bit of how to play with your jelly plate. And I am going to make myself some more papers. Probably look around the house, see if I can find some more mark makers. Oh, and mark makers are just the top of the thing. Do like this on your jelly plate before you pick up the color. And it leaves circles and, you know, oval lids. And just, I mean, anything that you can think of will make a mark on your paper. You could even use like this file, and you could just take it and just set it on your thing and then pull it off, and it would, you know, leave that kind of a shape on your paper. So really, this was not like the best play, but I had fun doing it. And maybe I should have like thought it out a little bit ahead of time and maybe tried tried all my different things. But I wanted you to see what this is just my first start. I haven't done this in such a long time. I couldn't even find my old mark makers. Actually, they're in the closet. I should have went and looked there, but these were the ones, as I was just trying to pull something out quickly, these were the things that I found. And as you go, you'll find more and more. Keep a little box and just put them in the box. And if there's something that you took out, like I have to say that these really did not make the best marks. So seriously, I probably will not use this again. I do have a great big one that works really well, but it has big spaces between it. So, maybe that's the difference. And I don't know that it's exactly this pattern, but I don't think that I'll keep these in my mark making box because I didn't like the marks it made. I didn't think it did a good job. So, but I do like my rollers, and I really love this, and I like my roller stamps, and just play around and see what you like. Maybe I'll come back and I am going to come back and we're going to play with my old plate. So maybe at that point in time I will have found some cooler mark makers, and we'll see how they work. And I'll remember exactly how to, like different things that I used to do to get favorite papers. So, and that's the thing, play with it. And as you go through and you say, ooh, I like this, I really like this, make a few like that so that you have a few. And then go through and do something else. You don't have to make every single one different. When you find some that you like, do a few of them, and then you'll have them on hand. So thank you very much for stopping by. I really do appreciate each and every one of you, and I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.